Dear students, today I will throw light on a remarkable poet from Victorian era named Robert Browning, who brought a kind of shift in terms of his handling of post-Keatsian sensuous imagery. As we all know that from Victorian poet Alfred Lord Tennyson was very close to romantic expression, not only close to the philosophies of romanticism or of romantic age, but very close in terms of handling, in terms of carrying forward the echoes of romantic era, right? So if we have to talk about the most influential figure for Tennyson, it was Keats. And as far as in general romantic philosophy is concerned, it is continued by all three Victorian poets. But when we talk about one or another individual poet, we have certain hallmarks, certain different terms to define. So as far as Robert Browning is concerned, he is known for his philosophy of life and he is known for his handling of dramatic monologue. So first, as we all know that dramatic monologue is a kind of technique that is employed by not only employed by Robert Browning, but we have already done Ulysses. There also we studied this dramatic monologue. But the kind of grandeur and the excellency that is brought by Browning is noticeable or remarkable. So Browning's handling of dramatic monologue is unique, and his many poems famous like My Last Duchess, Porphyria's Lover, Grammarian's Funeral, Men and Women, and many other poems he has written like Pippa Passes, where you will notice that slowly and gradually there is growth in his understanding of life, and that growth is called as his philosophy of life, and often we refer it as robust optimism. So what is this robust optimism? This robust optimism is not a thing that is kept somewhere and which Browning has just insulated inside his own self. Robust optimism is the result of his gradual growth of mind, and this is what maturity of thought is called. So day by day he explored life and he understood life, and this is called philosophy of life. Otherwise Browning is not a philosopher. Browning is a poet, and he is more poet than a philosopher, so we call him as a philosophic poet, right, in place of philosopher. But yes, he justifies saying of many philosophers like Goethe, Dante, Aristotle, Longinus. All these thinkers, time to time, they have talked about artistic delight, and this artistic delight is obviously, along with this delight, along with this joy in literature, it is filled with instruction, and that is what called didacticism. So wherever there is didacticism, it turns into philosophy. So when you go back and just evaluate the romantic poetry, you will find that in Wordsworth also there was didacticism, though this term is very much close to the 18th century figures, because they have made use of this term didacticism in a very different manner. But in Wordsworth also, in Keats also, initially in all the romantic poets, when you find that through poetry a kind of teaching is done, the greatest philosophy of life is taught to you in artistic form, that is called as artistic delight. So Browning is not doing anything different than those poets, right? Browning also does the same thing, and he is dealing with the philosophy of life, human life, and that is in artistic form, that means in the form of poetry. So he justifies that. Besides this, when I have to focus on your two prescribed poems, one is Rabbi Ben Ezra and another is The Last Ride Together, two questions are important. One is the Browning's philosophy of life, and the whole Rabbi Ben Ezra is dealing with this particular concept, and another is the love poet. It can be asked, I think so, because for the first time Last Ride Together is prescribed in your course. Anyways, so dealing with Browning, when we look at his handling of the dramatic monologue, what do we notice? That he is in habit of taking historical characters, but these historical characters are not represented in a straight way. They come into existence with a kind of imaginative tool of Browning. That means Browning employs his imagination, and this is how all the characters, narration of all the characters becomes very unique or very different than the other dramatic monologues. So as I told you that as far as the definition of this particular technique is concerned, we have done that there in the Ulysses also. So I am skipping that part, and I am going to focus here over the philosophy of life of Browning. So the 3 to 4 points I will deal, and then I will take Rabbi Ben Ezra, and the whole poem is in, as I said, philosophy. In his philosophy, the first thing that he believes in God, he believes in the immortality of soul, he believes in the perfection of life, and this life he says that is imperfect, meaning to say that human life is life, another name is imperfection, and the goal of human life is to have perfection. And for achieving this perfection throughout life, we are supposed to struggle, we are supposed to strive, we are supposed to make effort, and success and failure is the part and parcel of our struggle and our strive. So in Browning's philosophy, these 3 to 4 words are key to understand his whole concept. So as I told you that he believes in God. For him, Almighty is all in all. He believes in the scheme of God. He believes in the plannings of God. He says that we are the part and parcel of that scheme, that plan which God has made regarding this earth. So I can say here that he resembles or he echoes here very much like Platonic idea. Just as while doing P.B. Shelley, I have already discussed in detail what is called Platonic idea or Neoplatonic idea. Idea is something which is absolute, and this whole world is taken as reflection or replica of that ultimate idea. So in the same way, Browning says in this poem Rabbi Ben Ezra that perfect I call thy plan, and thanks that I am a man. So he believes in the way things are carved by Almighty and God. And in another poem, Pippa Passes, he writes that God is in his heaven, then everything is all right. Meaning to say that whatever is happening, either in your goal, in your court, good comes or bad, you have to satisfy. You have to feel a kind of contentment with that. So generally, this is the human nature, that we keep on complaining, or we keep on saying that I don't have this, or I don't have that, or I worked so hard, why I got this failure, my friend has not worked so much, and then also he got this much marks and I have not got this. You know, many different stages of our life and different kind of comparisons we keep on doing, and we have a grudge and we have complaints regarding that. But Browning says that whatever comes to you in whatsoever form, you should accept it as the blessing of God, as the grace of God. Maybe that God has made something great to you in that you are right now not able to realize. So Browning says that we must keep faith, we must have greatest belief in the functioning of, in the working of Almighty. Just like Shakespeare talks in his play Hamlet that even the fall of a squirrel is not possible without the wish of God. So I think all the great thinkers, great poets, dramatists, philosophers, time and again they have discussed, they have talked in their creations about the working of the providence. And the grace of the God is most important thing. So is the case of Browning also, and he highlights that failure and success is not important. What is most important is your struggle and strive. So you will find that in the poem Last Ride Together, he writes very beautifully that how many attempts this lover has made, but after getting failure, lover is not having any sort of complaint from God that why I got failed. Because the philosophy is what, that I made attempt and attempts, that is important, not this result is important. Another thing which comes in his philosophy of life, it is all about achievement of the ideal thing. Just as I mentioned name of Plato talks about absolute idea. In the same way, Browning is also of the opinion that there is an idea and that idea is unachievable. And this life is throughout, means the whole life is a kind of struggle to be perfect, to be ideal, but that ideal is unachievable and that ideal can never ever be achieved. And the day this ideal is going to be achieved, it will lose its importance, its existence and its meaning. So human life, another name is what? Imperfection. We are born imperfect and we will die imperfect, and we are going to be perfect after this life, right? So these are some of the points in light of which we should study Rabbi ben Ezra. So I'm going to take this poem Rabbi ben Ezra, and as I told you that it is also a dramatic monologue. However, audience is not known, or the dramatic situation is not very well defined in this poem. But we notice that in the first stanza, this speaker Rabbi, he addresses to the unknown audience that grow old along with me. So the philosophy of old age and youth is given well by poet, and he says that generally people they ignore old age, but old age is having its own value. So I will take explanation and I will make it clear. But before that, this particular poem is also based on a historical figure who is from who is a Jewish scholar of 12th century, and he was in habit of rabbi, that means he was in habit of doing journey, right? And in the course of journey, many learnings are taking place to that scholar. So on the basis of that particular 12th century scholar named as Rabbi, named as Ben Ezra, this particular character is best called Rabbi Ben Ezra, who is going to deal with the journey of life, and here all the aspects of life will come, and life is taken as a complete, as a whole, and this earth is just part of that whole, because Browning believes in a kind of philosophy that covers life after life. That means this life is not only about your journey, rather half of the journey you do here, and next half is going to be done by you in the another world, that you are going to meet after your death. So I'm going to begin here poem, and keep in mind this philosophy of life. So here is the first stanza. Grow old along with me, the best is yet to be, the last of life for which the first was made. So as I told you that Browning believes in a life which is a kind of whole, and this earth is just the part of this whole, not the complete whole, this life here on this earth. And second thing, that if you divide here on this earth life into two parts, that means the youth and old age. So youth is just one half and old age is the another half. Here I must highlight that how we take old age. Generally old age is the age of inaction, or we say that old age, that means it is time to rest, it is not to work. But what here poet wants to suggest, that old age is having its own glory, its own duty, its own beauty, its own duty also, right? Not only beauty but duty also. So he says that if you have you are growing old, don't get worried, grow old along with me. I'm also Rabbi as addressing to the audience that I'm also growing old, and you also grow old with me, because you have not seen the best part of life yet. The best is yet to come. So what I told you, robust optimism, extreme kind of optimistic note you will find in his poetry, means whatever is happening in the life, if you are going to take it in optimistic way, then I'm sure that never ever you are going to feel bored and problematic, any kind of disturbance in your life. For example, right now we are suffering from this COVID-19 lockdown situation, and many such situations are coming when we are facing our daily routine. But if you follow philosophy of Browning, you have to be optimistic, and then you will realize that best is yet to come. Maybe that our nature is set, maybe that the disaster which we had brought, the change that we had brought in our life, right? And we were calling it as growth, but God knows, either we were changing or developing. Many such issues that can be discussed here. So if you are optimistic, you are going to survive in any situation. Here poet here highlights beauty of the old age, and he says that in fact the youth is made for old age. Like after this youth time, you are going to be old. So youth is just a kind of waiting, it's a kind of station for welcoming old age. So here he glorifies that. Generally we have seen that youth is glorified, not old age. Our times are in his hand, and his hand is nobody else but God, who said, a whole I plant, youth sows but half, trust God, see all, nor be afraid. So all are the part of plan of God. So don't be scared, don't feel this grudge, don't complain. Whatever you have got, be happy with that, right? This is the message of Browning, and I may say that this first stanza is actually giving the entire philosophy of life. And this entire philosophy of life is what? That earth is having just one part of the entire life, and there is a life after life. And further, if you do division of the life here on this earth, it can be in terms of youth and old age, right? And youth is just the preparation for old age. So Browning just provokes us to be optimistic in any situation. Now he continues, not that amassing flowers youth side, which rose make ours, which lily leave and then as best recall, nor that admiring stars it yearn, nor Jove nor Mars, mine be some figured flame which blends transcends them all. So here Browning describes features of the time of youth. Like when you are in your young age, how you function and what is the working of your mind, how you think about your lifestyle and what are your goals and dreams and hopes and aspirations. So Browning talks here about the wishes and desires, and these wishes and desires are like different accumulated flowers. Just as he here takes names of lily and maybe many other flowers you may recall here. So lily is a very beautiful flower of just one day, but the beauty of lily, it is for one day, but it is giving great message for life. So he says that if you are in your time of youth, you may have your wishes and desires, they are of tiny nature, that means of one day wishes and desire, right? Just as lily is the flower of one day. So today this thing you want to achieve, and tomorrow you have wish and aspiration for another goal. So our life is actually bundle of desires, or so many hopes and aspirations we are having in our life, that today I will complete this task and tomorrow I will do this one. So he says that numerous wishes, desires and hopes and aspirations are there, and Browning is not in mood to criticize the wishes and hope and desire of the time of youth. Rather he says that this is very much nature of the youngsters, that the moment one is completed, they develop another, right? Because there is some ignorance, there is some understanding is missing. And what happens that if for example you say that you go into the market for purchasing clothes, and just as you find 10 clothes very unique in the whole shop, and you have binding of purchasing just 2 clothes, right? Just 2 dresses. So the rest of the dresses that you left, or maybe that the next the 2 dresses that you have purchased, and the third one which you have left, after coming to home you are going to feel a kind of complaint that why I didn't take that one, right? So he says that youth time is like this. So many confusion is there, wishes and desires are there, and after completion of the another, there is complaint for the one which is not done or which is not achieved, right? But he says that it is not wrong. And further he describes that the goal of the youngster is so high that they feel like sky is my limit, or they think that toker ke niche jamana. So their goal is high than Jove and Mars. The name of the great planets are mentioned. So in fact, in front of their goals, they are not able to accept the power of the Jove and Mars, because they think that we are most mighty, we are most powerful. might be some figure flame which blends transcend them all. So youngsters generally they keep a spirit of transcending this stars like Jove and Mars. Now same idea is continued. Not for such hopes and fears, annulling youth's brief years, do I remonstrate. Fully wide the mark, rather I prize the doubt, low kind exists without, finished and finite clouds, untroubled by a spark. So here poet once again highlights the same idea, and he says that as far as these hopes and fears and desires are concerned, I am not at all criticizing. I just here explain, poet says that I just here explain qualities and the features of the time of youth in anyone's life, because everybody is young and everybody is going to be old. So he says that many such hopes are there that I will achieve this and I will achieve that, and at the same time this fear follows to your hope, and this is very natural phenomenon. If you make an attempt for achieving something, you definitely have fear in your mind that I may get success and I may not. So he says that hope and fear, they are just like the two sides of one coin, and that is very much visible at the time of youth, that means in the youngster's life. So he says that still I feel proud that youngsters are having this youngsters are having this hope and fear. The reason is what? That this very thing separates them from the lower kind of existences. Now let me highlight here that in this earth, in this world, on this earth, not only human beings but many other species are here. Just as animals, insects, birds, beasts, many such categories are there. So as in Bhagavad Gita it comes like after 80 lakhs yonis birth, this human life we have got. So in a way Robert Browning highlights here value of human life, that if you have got human life, you are supposed to go through this struggle, this strife, this attempt and failure, right? This hope and fear. And this very thing denotes, this very thing tells that you are a human being, and if you are a human being, then definitely you are superior in terms of your existence. Why? Because beast, animal, birds and other species, they cannot compete with you, because human life is superior kind of life, and here there is possibility of meeting God more than any other life, right? So he says that if you have got human life, you must follow the this faith, you must go into the crisis, you must suffer on account of others, you must live a life of sacrifice so that you may meet your right kind of end. So here poet highlights low kind exists without. Low kind exists without, that means lower creatures, they are also shadow. Just as Plato talks that they are also shadow, they are also creature created, they are also creature or they are also created by same Almighty. But what is the difference between you and an animal? You are supposed to be a rational being, you are supposed to be argumentative, you are supposed to be judgmental, you are supposed to be intellectual, and you are having better kind of communication skill than any other species, right? So poet says that one must feel proud that others are also having this same light, but they are not having little bit realization of the infinite light, whereas the case of human being, that they are blessed with this very faculty, that the moment they are growing day by day in their life, one day they have chance to realize the power of infinite inside themselves. So he says that one should celebrate that one is born as human being. Now the same idea is continued in the stanza number 4 also. Poor want of life indeed, were man but formed to feed on joy, to solely seek and find and feast. Such feasting ended then as sure an end to men, eke scare the cropful bird, frets doubt the mocrum beast. So the again ditto same idea is here repeated by poet, and he says that Indeed, it will be very regretful that human beings, they are spending their life only in wishes and hopes and desires. Meaning to say that if you have got life and you lived your wishes and desires, then you think about something else. But if you confine yourself to these tiny wishes and desires, that means you are not growing in your life. And it is always stated about human beings that when you face problems in your life, that means you are progressing, that means you are doing something. Like no study, no confusion, so there is no work and no struggle you find in your life. So he said that if you are going to limit yourself to this hope and fear, that is the indeed not matter of proud for the human beings. So your joy, your happiness must not be on these must not be based on this bestial nature. And what is this bestial nature? That once anyone is hungry, right, a crow is hungry, the moment food is served, its stomach is gratified, right, the more and more hunger, and the moment it is gratified, beast and animal, they are not going to apply their mind. But what is your duty as a human being? Have you to only live this life by eating and sleeping? Have you to spend your life only by eating and sleeping and everyday daily course by doing these daily jobs, or something else? Here poet provokes youngsters to think over this very issue, that why have you taken this birth. So Browning is not addressing some very distinct question. Browning is addressing the same question which all other thinkers and philosophers have raised, that what is the ultimate goal of life, you should ask, and problem of existentialism must disturb to one or another person if you are a human being. Now moving ahead, rejoice we are allied to that which doth provide, and not partake, effect and not receive. A spark disturb our clod, nearer we hold of God, who gives then of his stripes, that take I must believe. So this is the extreme faith, total surrender. As I said that Shakespeare is also writing and he also says to keep faith in the working of the providence. So whatever is happening, you must be satisfied and you must not complain regarding that, and rather you should be happy that you are part and parcel, you are most blessed creature, you are most best kind of creation of God. So rejoice we all are allied to that which doth provide, and not partake, effect and not receive. So whatever God has given to us, God is not going to take it back from us. So meaning to say that there is a spark of infinite within you. So that same idea of Plato or Neoplatonism, that means part and parcel, or you call it as reflection. Both the ways idea is same, right? So if you are holding that infinite spirit within yourself, lit that fire. Just wake up. And this is a kind of wake up call from the side of Browning. So he said that spark disturb our clod. Spark disturb our clod the moment when you are growing, the moment when you are disturbed with so many questions, the moment you are thinking about that stir, moment of stir. Moment of stir, that means a kind of vibration you realize within yourself, and you feel that now I should do something, I should understand life, I should move ahead. This stir which Savitri realized inside her, and she felt that no, my duty is very great and I have to change the whole human race into the divine race. So the stir she felt for the immortality, right? So he says that if you are human being, you are born and brought up with that stir, that spark, and stir you have to create. So Aurobindo also writes that the awakening of the self is possible not through some outside forces. Any outside force will not awaken you. You have to awaken by your own attempt and effort, right? So stir you have to create, you have to begin, initiate for immortality. So who gives then of his stripes, that take I must believe. So whatever God has given to you, just keep faith in that, move ahead, realize that is spark, and stir is that initial moment in realizing that spar. So I will take one more stanza here. Then welcome each rebuff that turns earth's smoothness rough, each sting that beats nor sit nor stand but go. Be our joys, three parts pain. Strive and hold cheap the strain. Learn not account the pang dare. Never grudge the throw. So poet here gives a very different angle, and he says that generally we reject what we don't like. So he says that welcome each rebuff in your life. If you try for something and somebody just insults you, right, you welcome that insult, you welcome that rejection, you welcome that ignorance, right? So welcome each rebuff, each and every rejection you welcome. That earth's smoothness rough. So anything that disturbs the coherence of your mind, that makes you incoherent, that disturb you, that अरे मेरा इंसल्ट कैसे वो कर सकता है. So if this very thing is disturbing you, then you invite more and more insult and face up the reality, because these things are not reality at all. These things are Maya. These things are unreal. And in this unreal world, we have made certain paradigm that this is my reward and this is my insult. So he says that invite all those things which makes your smoothness rough. Each sitting that beats not sit not. So be our joy's three parts pain, and enjoy your pain as much as you can. Strive and hold cheap this strain. So time and again if you meet failure, time and again if you feel rejection, you enjoy that, because life is most important, not the failure and success. Okay, so strive is most important, struggle is most important, and this is one of the key aspects of Browning's philosophy of life. So learn not account the pang, dare never grudge the throw. So never get afraid of the throw, that means of pain. So as Shelley writes in his Ode to the West Wind, that the life is full of thorn, and the moment I am walking on that, I bleed, I ooze out blood out of my feet. So this life, another name is imperfection, throw. It is a kind of thorn, and you have to invite your rejection, you have to face the reality, and when you find failure, you should be happy that greatest success is waiting for you. So I stop here, and in next video I will take the remaining stanzas. Thank you.